Good morning, everybody, and welcome. My name is Elizabeth Bernhard, and I am the Executive Director of the Manufacturing Growth Alliance, also known as MGA. I'm very excited that you joined us today on your Monday morning to learn about several funding opportunities available to you as a manufacturer in the UP or as a food processor in the UP. So I want to begin by thanking MGA's partners who made this event possible today. And that includes the Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, Invest UP, UP Michigan Works, the Sault Ste. Marie Economic Development Corporation, and the Economic Growth Institute. So Nikki, if you go to the next slide, please. So during this presentation, you will learn about several opportunities for funding. And the first will be the Industry 4.0 grant that has funding provided to you from the MEDC. You'll also hear about the MMTC Technology Assessment from Kristen Smith, and you'll hear about an Industry 4.0 case study from Vikesh Chandrasekhar with the Economic Growth Institute. You will hear from Holly Peoples, UP Michigan Works, and Amy Berglund with Invest UP about their Regional Training Innovation Grant. And finally, last but not least, Amber Westendorf with the MEDC, who will talk with us today about the Capital Access Program. So throughout this presentation, please enter your questions into the chat. And if you have comments as well, we will most likely hold your questions until the end of the presentation when we move into the Q&A portion of the event. During that Q&A time as well, I will allow you to unmute yourself so that if you would like to engage personally and ask questions yourselves, you will have the ability to do so. With that, let's get into the Industry 4.0 Technology Implementation Grant. So in 2021, the MEDC launched an Industry 4.0 initiative to support you as small to medium-sized manufacturers. And they made this possible so that you could receive grants up to $25,000 for you to purchase Industry 4.0 technology so that you can scale and remain efficient and grow your competitiveness. So these grants, like I said, are available to Michigan small to mid-sized manufacturers. And these are up to $25,000, and these are reimbursement-based grants. So what that means is you need to pay for the entire technology yourself, pay for it in full, and then you would submit to MGA as the regional grant administrator for reimbursement. And the grants cover up to 50% of your actual expenses incurred, not to exceed $25,000. And the MEDC launched this Industry 4.0 initiative in 2021, and we are now in our second year of a new grant cycle. And so the applications will be accepted on a rolling basis until all funding has been allocated. But before I dive into the grant a little further, I want to highlight the UP manufacturers who have already received this award. In fact, some of you are in attendance today. Next slide. So here are our UP manufacturers who have been awarded an Industry 4.0 grant so far. So we have A&S Industrial, Advanced Blending Solutions, Argonix, Calumet Electronics, Chicken Tramper Ultralight Gear, Great Lakes Sound and Vibration, Independent Machine Company, Lance Manufacturing and Technology, Northern Wings Repair, Superior Fabrication Company, Tritegrity Machine, and UP Fabricating. And again, these are the companies who have received a grant in this cycle. We had a couple of others as well who received it in the first year of the grant. Next slide. So to be eligible for this grant, again, with funding from the MEDC, you need to be a manufacturer as defined by the NAICS code. And the project that you are proposing must take place at a Michigan manufacturing facility. You also need to be classified as a small business by the Small Business Administration. And companies must complete an Industry 4.0 technology assessment by the MMTC prior to the award. And this is a free technology assessment that Kristen Smith will get into in just a few minutes. You also, a requirement of the grant is to become an essential member. This is a free membership with Automation Alley. And in addition, the next slide will showcase the program elements. So this grant emphasizes the purchasing of technology, hardware and software related to these categories. And those that have asterisks will be given preferential treatment, priority access. So that what that means is if there are 10 manufacturers and there are 12 awards available, we will prioritize those going to those that are the transformative technologies. So we have seen grants go for additive manufacturing and advanced materials, artificial intelligence, big data, cloud computing, cybersecurity, industrial Internet of Things, modeling, simulation, visualization and immersion, robotics and automation, and connected worker platforms and wearables. Next slide. And I wanted to highlight some of the technologies that your peers have already received grants for, just to give you a sense of what's happening in your region. So manufacturers thus far have purchased automated conveyor systems, automated sewing machines, upgrading to an ERP system to the newest software version, digitization of the shop floor through shop floor tablets, cobots, and Vikesh will be speaking with you in a few minutes as well about a case study about a manufacturer who has implemented technology with a cobot, 3D scanners, software to help improve CNC programming capability, robotic arms, and welding cobot. Next slide. So to apply for this grant, you'll go to this webpage where it's a very straightforward process. Of all the grants that I have seen, this is probably one of the most straightforward ones to process. And as the regional grant administrator, we administer this grant in partnership with Vikesh at EGI. And so the two of us are available for you as questions come up about this grant, or if you want to talk through the technology that you are considering pursuing. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen Smith with the Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center, who will talk with you about the technology assessment that's a requirement for this grant and which will be your very first step in pursuing this grant. Kristen?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, so this assessment is a $2,400 assessment that is completely free to manufacturers due to the MEDC being able to help fund these for the manufacturers. As Elizabeth said, that this is a requirement for the grant. So pretty much what this assessment is doing is looking at your company's business goals and then coming in for a 2-hour site visit and actually seeing your operations, and then seeing what kind of technologies can really help you achieve your business goals. Because the last thing that we don't want to do is be able to, we don't want to see companies going for technologies that really is not helping them get to the next stage. And again, we want you guys to be competitive as possible, especially being in very rural areas. So the first step of the assessment is, again, understand your business goals with the transformational planner. And then here what we're looking at is the on-site 2-hour visit. It's a 40-question assessment. We're looking at your current technology, your current systems and processes, the voice of the customer, voice of the business, and what technologies are currently using. And again, seeing what could be implemented. May you go to the next slide, please? Once this is done, about a week later, we'll schedule a 30-minute virtual report out. You will get a report documenting pretty much everything that we gathered from you and from the on-site visit. And the recommendations will be in the report, and this is what will be required for the assessment. And thank you very much.
And next we have Vikesh, who will be talking about a cobot case study.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Kristen. I'm going to talk about a cobot case study. Just briefly, I'll give a little background on our organization. We are with the University of Michigan, but our mission is equitable economic growth. And we achieve this by primarily working across technology innovation, working with industries and community. And I would say the majority of our work is working with companies across Michigan. On the right side, you can see the map of the companies that we, or the location of the companies that we've worked with. Next slide, please. So as we've administered this grant, we've had, I think, about 60 plus projects so far. And we looked through them, we saw a good number of projects in the cobot space. So we wanted to kind of peel the layers back a little bit and see what is the impacts that manufacturers are seeing and kind of share that learnings that we've found with a broader audience. So it could potentially help other manufacturers across Michigan kind of understand the benefits of cobots. And I thought this picture is an apt picture to kind of start with, because initially when we think of cobots, we almost think them as in conflict with the machinists or the people working there. But what we've noticed in the actual shop floor is that they end up being the best assistant to a CNC machinist. And we'll talk about that a little more here. Can we go to the next slide, please? So I'm going to use a case study of a company called Coventry Industries. They are an munitions presses and machinery manufacturer here in Holly, Michigan. It's about an hour north of Ann Arbor. So one of the main problems that they were facing is a machinist labor shortage. And this is a problem that's it's acute all across Michigan, I would say, and even across the country. It's estimated there'll be about 2,000 CNC machinist job openings in the year 2024, just in Michigan alone. And that's primarily because 70% of the current machinists are 45 years or older. Another issue that is being faced for many machinists, at least in this down here in this part of the state, was that machinists don't like repetitive work as much, and they often look for jobs that use their skill sets more, and have often used that leverage to increase or to negotiate better rates with their existing employers. And that's something that we've noticed too. So there's been a rather high attrition rate among CNC machinists for Coventry Industries. And other aspects of problems that were uncovered is high idle time between cycles. So in a CNC machine, the machinist loads and unloads the part. And it's not often that the machinist is waiting around for the entire part, for the operation to finish, to be there immediately when the operation is finished to load the next part. So a 30-second process of loading and unloading the part in reality can take anywhere from 30 seconds to 15 minutes if they're not right there. And lastly, the other problem is the underutilized CNC machines, because these are very expensive machines that you have in your shop floor, and you want to maximize the productivity of these machines. And it's not being used 24/7. And every morning when you start up the machine, it takes roughly about 15 minutes to warm up the machine. So as we go to the next slide, we'll see how cobots kind of help with these problems. So what a cobot is, it's a collaborative robot. They're much less expensive than your traditional robots, but they can be used for machine tending applications, which is the loading and unloading of parts. And at Coventry Industries, how they came about this was by working with an application specialist at MMTC. So once they had the technology opportunity assessment, there was an initial opportunity identified within the cobot space for their manufacturing. And then they had an MMTC application specialist look at that particular part, the volumes, and decided that a cobot would work well. And this really worked well, because initially cobots are seen as almost like or ribbon robots are seen as a leap of faith into a new technology, which could be kind of daunting. But working with a partner such as MMTC, they can kind of help you de-risk that and kind of understand and learn about it as you go through the process. So it's more taking smaller steps in the right direction instead of taking that big leap of faith. And what this company was able to notice once they implemented it is that they didn't really need the machinist once the machinist set up the job in the start of the day. So it freed up at least 80% of that machinist's time, which could then be allocated towards other productive activities. That idle time between parts was drastically reduced. So initially, while they were making about 35 parts a day on average, it went up to 47 parts a day, because the cobot is holding the next part in its hand, so it can unload and load immediately. Another thing that I didn't really think that much of, but when I spoke to the CEO of the company, is like, yeah, the employees really think it's cool, that it's like we're moving in the 21st century, and it's something that they could use to attract and retain job candidates, which is especially important in this environment. And lastly, at Coventry Industries, they are hoping, or they're planning to use their CNC machine 24/7. So what you hear of as lights off manufacturing, with certain upgrades to their compressor system, their CNC machine will, with the cobot, will now be able to run 24/7. So significantly increasing their machine utilization of those expensive assets that they already have in terms of that CNC machine. So it is less expensive than a traditional robot, and it's user friendly. It can be programmed. It's not as complex as a robot to program. In fact, you can use the end arm of the cobot, and you can move it, and it registers those movements. So it makes it easier to switch between machine tasks at the same machine. Let's go to the next slide, please. So here we can talk about what is it. So we've talked about the benefits that you can realize, but let's talk about what does it cost and potential financial benefits that you could also see in this cobot implementation. So with this implementation, the initial upfront cost for the cobot, I believe it was Universal Robot URE10, was about $50,000. And cobot costs can vary. It can be as little as $15,000, but maybe up to $60,000 as well. And the primary factors are what's the weight of the part and how fast the cobot can move. To enable the door to be automatically to open and close, that costs another $800. The end of arm tooling, which is a pneumatic vise to grip the part, which is on the end of the cobot, for this application cost about $7,000. And the last part is cobot training. So this is the MMTC's application specialist who trained the company on helping them identify which is the right cobot for them, and train their employees on how to program that cobot for that particular part. So all in all, an upfront cost of about $65,000 and $800. And we look at the benefits that they realized. And I broke down the benefits in two aspects. One is the increased efficiency benefit. So just by having that reduced idle time, they were able to increase their output by 34% within the same 10-hour period. So they went from 35 parts to 47 parts. So if you impute the savings in labor for that 34% a day over 200 days, that's $24,000 in increased efficiency benefit. And if you could repurpose that freed up time of the CNC machinists, so if you assume about 80% of that time could be repurposed towards other productive activities, that's another annual benefit of about $56,000. And this assumes a $35 an hour costs for the CNC machinist, including benefits, and over a 10-hour shift. So clearly, if you look at the benefits of this, there is a payback for your initial investment in terms of profits, potential profits within 10-month period, which we find is pretty remarkable investment in terms of a new technology, and worth sharing to the broader crowd as well. So this is a case study about Coventry Industries. So certainly it does depend on the volume of the part that you're doing, the size of the part, and the complexity of the part, and any changeovers that are required. But it is worth looking at any repetitive tasks that you have within your current manufacturing operations and considering if that could be automated using cobot, because there is potential benefits in doing that. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Vikesh. And I'm going to enter into the chat the URL where you can go straight to our website and find out more information about the Industry 4.0 grant, which includes the links to apply for the grant, as well as a link to sign up for the Essential membership with Automation Alley and to request your free assessment with Kristen and the UP from MMTC. With that, we will transition to the next presenter, and this will be Holly Peoples with UP Michigan Works. Thank you, Holly.
Sorry, thank you, Elizabeth. Nikki, can you go ahead and actually just jump right into the next slide with some information on it. So thank you all for having me today. And I always say at the beginning of this presentation, at Michigan Works, we have a tendency to kind of use some language that I always call our alphabet soup, because a lot of things that we do, we have acronyms for, and you'll see that throughout this presentation. And I always say to everybody, even though this sounds a lot like alphabet soup, don't ever think that you have to know the recipe how to make the soup. Because the main point that I want everybody to leave here with today is if you have some hiring needs, some training needs, and some things that we can assist you with, we just want to get to know you, get to know your business, get to know what your needs are. And then our people will navigate that alphabet soup recipe for you and help you through all of the different programs that we have that all have all these acronyms. So really this slide just kind of talks about how overall we have a variety of services that we feel like can help you with your workforce related needs. So go ahead, Nikki. Okay, and so everybody knows lately this has been a big challenge, and we always want to kind of set the expectation that in every corner of the Upper Peninsula, and as you've heard already this morning, across the state and across the country, talent recruitment is a major issue and concern for all of our businesses that we work with. But we do have some tools to bring to bear that we feel like can help. I think many of you probably do already work with your business services specialist in your region to do some of these things. What we found we've had some success with over the past, say, year or so is our social media outreach and our partnership with TV6. So the whole goal is to really develop a comprehensive and clearly stated and attractive job description and outreach materials for your jobs that you have that you need to fill, and to try to get as many eyeballs on them as possible. That's really, the goal is to try to broadly push out that information. And, we know that, kind of social media is the way of the world these days. And we have some pretty robust social media and some really good active social media where we get a lot of engagement with it. So we're happy to sit down with you and go through some of the ideas that we would have on recruiting talent and to implement that strategy. Okay, Nikki. This is a variety of different types of training that we can help you to connect with. We have, here's an acronym for you, on-the-job training, or OJT, for people that are eligible for our programs. And we currently have our criteria for that eligibility set. So any person that you send to us, so what we call that is a reverse referral. So if a business sends us a person to do an on-the-job training with them, they're automatically eligible. In the past, you might have had an experience where you might have sent us a person and we said, they aren't low income enough to be in the program, so we can't help. There could have been some of those kind of barriers put up to those kinds of things, and we've eliminated that right now. So really 100% of those people you send to us, we can place in an on-the-job training. And many of you might know what that means is a subsidized wage. So we'll reimburse you for up to 50% of the wage for that person for a particular set of time. And it depends on how much time it looks like it's going to take to train that person up. Typically, we look at those and they're around a 13-week period. And so we also have training for your current workforce, and we'll hit on that a little bit more down the road. This slide talks about a service that we have that I think is kind of underutilized, and this is pre-employment assessments or testing. So if you want to send, say you have 3 candidates and you're trying to choose between the 3 candidates or something like that, and you want to know which of those candidates is the best at doing shop math, you can send those people to us, and we can give them an assessment, and you get a score back on how well they do at shop math. That might be one example, or, one that is used, I think, pretty regularly is a typing test, if you're hiring for somebody who's more of a clerical test. But we have hundreds of them. Literally, we have this one testing system that I think has something like 800 tests in it. So if you're interested in knowing if somebody can do Excel at a basic level or a high level or an intermediate level, we can test them on that. Okay, Nikki. This side talks about a variety of different additional things that we can do. A lot of these kinds of things might be a referral to a partner. So, if you're a company who's interested in, market diversification, we might refer you to the Small Business Technology Center. Or if you're a company that is not currently doing government contracting, but you want to get into that and you want to learn about what that's all about, we can refer you to, they're called Apex Accelerator now, or, we make a lot of referrals to local economic developers, MEDC. Most of the people on this call, we send a lot of people to talk to Kristen about how she can come in and help them and do training. We fund a lot of training that Kristen does. We find the stuff that she does is super effective, and a lot of the manufacturers across the region get a lot of value out of working with the MMTC and other partners. And then one other thing I think we have a particular slide on later is registered apprenticeships. We're doing a lot of really great work in the manufacturing sector and other sectors with registered apprenticeship right now. All right, Nikki. Here we have a whole list of alphabet soup for you to peruse here. And I think the one thing, and this might have its own slide coming up, I think it does, is we're doing some really great things lately with our incumbent worker training. We do have the Going Pro Talent Fund that funds a lot of people's training. I think there's a lot of people who had registered for this call that do the Going Pro Talent Fund, which now has 2 cycles, which is nice. But the incumbent worker is Michigan Works specific dollars that are set aside to help companies train their current workforce. So like right now, we're doing a really big project with one company. They're transitioning to a new ERP system, and they have 56 people, I think, that are going to get trained on their new ERP system, and we're helping them cover those costs. We're doing a project right now with a company who's entering into the high voltage electrical vehicle market. They're doing some training with Michigan Tech to train their engineering staff on some real high level, big picture stuff, and we're doing like one right now that's with the conservation districts. It's chainsaw safety training. So like we can do almost, anything you can think of, we can probably, help you with. There are some requirements, and we can go over those details with you if you find you're interested in doing that. So again, don't worry about this alphabet soup list. If you want to do some training, reach out to us and we'll talk to you about that and figure out if it's something that we can help you with. Okay, Nick. Here we see that on the job training specifically, 50% wage reimbursement. Some supportive services might be available for that new hire. We're doing a lot of that right now across the region. Things like, somebody who can't make it to work because their car needs to be repaired, or, they need to have work boots or steel-toed boots and they can't afford that until they get their first paycheck. Well, we can help, do those kinds of things for people. If they're struggling and they need some gas money kinds of things, we can a lot of times come in and do some mitigation of some of those issues that people run across in their lives and try to help them. And in the supportive services can particularly help for sometimes people who are already working for you, but they're, maybe in that ALICE population, they have a large family at home and struggling making ends meet. So we're always happy for you to refer your current people to us in addition to your new people, so we can maybe just sit down with them and see how we might be able to help. All right, Nikki. Okay, and this is another on-the-job training slide. Again, 50%, up to 50% wage reimbursement. That depends on the size of your company, and we can talk to you about that individually if it's something that you'd like to talk about further. All right, Nikki. This is again our incumbent worker training. This slide has a few of the rules on it. And we don't need to worry about that right now. We have different funding streams coming in from different grants right now. Over, I guess it's going to be probably 2 years now, we've brought in an additional, I think it's somewhere around $4 million on top of our typical annual dollars that we get. There's money out there that would be like, CARES Act and recovery funding, and we're anticipating more grant dollars that we're going to be competitively writing for as things come down the pike a little more with this CHIPS Act and infrastructure and, all of these federal funds that you see in the news typically have a workforce aspect to them. And that allows us to, increase the flows of training dollars and support dollars that are coming through the Upper Peninsula. And we've been effective and competitive and, like I said, just bringing in some dollars to help in the Upper Peninsula. Okay, Nick. Going Pro Talent Fund, the slide needs to be updated. These dollar amounts on here are low. Starting this year for 2023, the training caps have increased by $500 across the board. So per person now you can access $2,000 per person for incumbent workers or new hires. And then apprentices are now $3,500 per apprentice. And it's not only first years anymore. So those of you who have done Going Pro Talent Fund for apprentices in the past, it was $3,000 only for first year apprentices. Now it's $3,500 for all of your apprentices. So like we're going to work with the IBEW coming up here in a few weeks, coming real fast here for an industry-led collaborative for all of their apprentices. So they have 72 apprentices. And I think that math ends up to be somewhere just over $200,000 we're going to apply for to get those grants. And so, we'll see companies applying for Going Pro Talent Fund, and it'll be anywhere from, say, a $3,500 request up to $300,000. So depending on your company, how much training you do, and whether you have apprentices, those can be pretty substantial dollars that can come into your pockets to help your company. So if you're not already working with your business services person through Michigan Works for Going Pro Talent Fund, please consider doing so. They've simplified the process to apply greatly. So we'd love to sit down and talk to you about that opportunity. Okay, Nikki. Apprenticeship. We're doing apprenticeships right now. We've become, UP Michigan Works is now a U.S. Department of Labor intermediary. That's the word. And what that means is we're the middle person between the company and the U.S. Department of Labor. What that means to me, I think, for the businesses out there is I think the hesitancy that a lot of companies have for getting into actual registered apprenticeship opportunities is that U.S. Department of Labor part. And it's true, it's a whole red tape process that takes time, commitment, paperwork, energy, all that stuff to get through. But now we can do it basically for you. It really minimizes the amount of engagement that a company ever has to have with the United States Department of Labor. So we feel like, our processes do have the element of the red tape there, they always do, but we're going to try to minimize that, help you through the process. And we have a lot of companies who are doing it and just really happy with the way it's looking. And we're doing a lot of this work particularly targeted to high school youth. So it's youth registered apprenticeship. So we're doing work with, 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds. We can go down to 16-year-olds. So far, we haven't had any 16-year-olds and mostly 17-year-olds. And then we are working with adults. So we have early childhood education apprenticeships. We have CNC machine operator apprenticeships. We have medical assistant apprenticeships. We're right now getting into some banking and finance area apprenticeships. So we can be across the board, and it's a pretty great process that really helps to have a replicable, reliable training process for your people as they're coming up through your company. So, okay, Nikki. Okay, this is another slide that talks about some subsidized employment. There are various different things we can do. We can, if you have a person that you're considering, but you're not sure and you want to try before you buy, we can do a thing called work-based learning. So WBL, another acronym there for you, where we hire the person. They come on under our employment. We're going to pay that paycheck for a certain amount of time. So you can try before you buy, give that person a test drive, and they can test drive you too. A lot of times it might be a young person who isn't sure what kind of a career they're interested in. This can give them an opportunity to kind of test drive a job. Okay, Nikki. Student work experience. One of the things I wanted to mention, I don't think we have any slides here, but we're really encouraging companies, if you're not already, to get into your CTE programs. Those teachers, those programs welcome you in their classrooms. They want you in their classrooms. They want you to come in and talk to the kids about what you expect at work. It's more impactful when it comes from a business person instead of their teacher. Their teacher can stand up there all day and say, you got to get there on time. You can't wear your pajamas, and all that stuff all day long. And it has more meaning when it comes from a business. And if you want to get in and meet some kids, when they're first starting out their CTE work experience, education experience, so they can then come to you for a work experience. We can help you coordinate to get into those classrooms and get to know those kids. You know, we know there are organizations, like one that comes to my mind is the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters. That training instructor, he's in those classrooms all the time. He knows those kids and those kids know him. So when those welding kids are going to graduate, they know what's an opportunity for them in that union, and they go. They take those jobs, they get those jobs because they know, because he's in there. He gets to know them, you know, in their sophomore, junior, senior years. So we really encourage that. And like career fairs, like we're doing Mind Trekkers right now, which is a really cool hands-on career exploration experience that Michigan Tech does. And this is something that has been an opportunity that's been in the backyard in the Upper Peninsula, but never done in the Upper Peninsula until this year. I think it's just one of those like unbelievable things that we've missed the opportunity to get these tech students to go around and meet and greet and do hands-on work, career exploration experiences with young people. They go all over the country and do this. And now for the first time, we're doing it in the UP, and we should. We shouldn't have Michigan Tech running around the country. We should have Michigan Tech in the UP, right? So we need you to help us and come to those and do those experiments with those kids, and even try to help us with some financing if you can for those experiences. So, okay, Nikki. Oh, okay, so that's my last slide. Any questions, I'm happy to answer. And please feel free to email me directly at any point with any needs that you might have. So thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Next, we have Amy Berglund with Invest UP to talk about their Regional Training Innovation Grant. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Go ahead and go to the next slide. There we go. Well, together with the support of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and a variety of other partners across the Upper Peninsula, Invest UP has convened an initiative aimed at supporting the demand for advanced skilled talent. The training and job placement program started in the fall of 2022. And the training opportunity is open to the general public, but we are focusing on high school graduates, early career workers, displaced workers, and others who are seeking new career advancement and opportunities. Next slide, please. The initiative is backed by a Regional Talent Innovation Grant and part of the Federal Community Development Block Grant from the CARES Act. The funding is allocated to the MEDC and then to Invest UP. We have about $950,000 dedicated towards the training reimbursements, and these reimbursements go directly to the higher ed institutions that we're working with. Next slide, please. A little bit about the eligibility. The federal training program requires that 51% of a training session must be, the trainees must be from low to moderate income households. So, and that is determined by county. So it will vary a little bit from county to county, but basically it's right around the $17 to $18 an hour, 36 to 37,000 annually, right around that income. And 51% of each training session need to be from that income level in order for the higher ed institution to receive the reimbursement. So these training opportunities support the initiative's goal to reduce barriers for people who meet these income thresholds, such as costs associated with further education. The trainees can be employed workers who need an industry recognized credential. The trainees will need to complete an application with the host institution, provide a copy of a 2021 IRS 1040 tax form, in addition to prior 2 weeks of check stubs if they are employed. The deadline to begin a training session is May 31st of this year. So we have kind of a quick timeline to work with here. Next slide, please. These are the institutions that we're working with. So Bay College, Gogebic Community College, Michigan Tech, and Northern Michigan University are participating. The UP colleges have designed short-term trainings to last from anywhere from 2 days to 8 weeks in areas related to mechatronics and a variety of technical skill applications such as advanced electronics, manufacturing, software and systems support, and many more. The goal is really to help fill just over 300 manufacturing positions needed across the UP. Access to training will conclude this summer. Our deadline is July 31st. Trainees will receive or need to receive a certificate of completion and will be provided with job placement and advancement assistance as well. Each institution listed here will deliver its own unique training program designed to address local employer demand and needs. For example, NMU is currently exploring cybersecurity certification trainings that they could provide. Gogebic and Bay College are both providing robotics trainings, and Michigan Tech is deploying their mobile lab to reach across the UP and deliver training on site where needed. And again, these are the institutions that we're working with, as well as the direct contacts for these training opportunities. Next slide, please. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer. And just really quickly, this training opportunity is designed to reskill and skill UP job seekers, as well as employed workers with a variety of training options that can be tailored to the demands of the local manufacturers. The program could definitely fit an Industry 4.0 project implementation. Dependent again on salary eligibility and timing. And again, you know, that deadline to begin a training would be the end of May this year. Would be happy to provide any one-on-one additional detail to address questions. So that's the long and short of it. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Amy. And next we have Amber Westendorp with the MEDC to speak to us about their Capital Access Program. Welcome, Amber.
Hi, thank you. Good morning, and thank you for having me. So I wanted to touch on a couple of programs that we have here on our Capital Access team at the MEDC that might be helpful for you. One being our Collateral Support Program and then our Loan Participation Program. With each of these programs, we do have some industry requirements that you can see on the left-hand side. Manufacturing definitely falling into one of our qualifying industries to be able to support it a larger amount. With our programs, we can support any real estate, that's a real estate purchase, improvements, if you're furniture, fixtures, equipment purchases, and then we can also support working capital lines as well. One thing that we're not able to do is passive real estate, so no investment real estate or anything like that. And all of our programs are designed to work directly with your lender within their policy and all of their framework for commercial credits. Next slide, please. With each of these programs, we can provide up to $5 million to an individual borrower with support, and we can support loans that are up to $20 million. We're not allowed to be on the same loan as SBA or USDA. We can be a part of the overall credit package as long as we're on a separate note and for a separate purpose. And this does have to be new lending exposure. We're not currently able to do any refinances. Next slide, please. So jumping into our loan participation program, with this one, we can support or purchase up to 49.9% of a new loan. This one is used quite a bit if there is a cash flow, if you have issues with cash flows or they're just not where the bank is comfortable with lending the amount that you're needed. So we can come in and purchase up to 49.9% of that loan amount and just reduce some of the lender risk there and make them a little more comfortable. We would enter into a participation agreement with the lender and the borrower. at closing, those documents would be available and be signed. In some instances, we are able to provide a grace period of up to 36 months where we can forego our receipt of interest and sometimes delay our principal payments back to us on our portion. So while the bank may still want to receive their portion, you can have a lower payment at least on our portion of it. We typically see it a lot if the company is growing and expanding too quickly. Maybe you have equipment that needs to be purchased, installed, and just get up and running production before you start making a full payment back to us. With this program, we would work with your lender to review the underwriting, do our own underwriting, and all of that. And then at closing, we do have a 1% to 2% closing fee, and that's on our support amount, not the overall loan amount. We aren't typically charging an annual fee. If we do have a large grace period, we do have the ability to charge a 1% fee annually on there as well. Next slide, please. With this program, the lender would be who applies to the MEDC. So the lender would reach out to us. They would send us their underwriting and then also fill out our application form. With this program, we do require a background check on the borrower and any owners that are holding 20% or more. And then just to note that the grace period, we typically use it for speculative cash flows in the short term. So it's not something we provide to everybody. It just depends on the situation. And this program is available now. So next slide, please. Jumping into our collateral support program. This one we use if there is a collateral gap there on the lending, preventing you from getting what you really need. So we can provide up to 49.9% of the loan amount in collateral. And what we do is we would open up an account at the bank, credit union. And once closing happens, we would place cash into that account, and that cash would be pledged as collateral on that loan. With this, we do have a 1% closing fee currently and 1% fee annually. And that fee is derived off of our support amount and not the overall loan amount for that. Next slide, please. So this program works pretty similarly to our loan participation program, where the lender would be the applicant. So they would provide their underwriting and then application to us. This one does also require a background check too. And then this program can do a fixed asset financing and also a working capital line of credit. Next slide, please. So the process on using our programs, first you would just really want to connect with a lender, discuss your project early with them, work with them to see what the need might be and what program it would fit best in. And then we ask that the lender reach out to us and discuss the project with us. And then once it's determined that our programs would be a good fit, the lender would submit their intake form, the background checks, and their underwriting to us. And then once it's approved, if it's collateral support, we would get that account opened up and get the agreements executed. And then once the loan closes, we would fund those. Next slide, please. So those are the two programs that we have. If you have any questions, you can definitely reach out and share my information with your lender also if they have any questions, and you can visit our website too for more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. Okay, now we would love to take your questions for the presenters here today. And I'm going to begin by asking a question submitted by Todd Grove. And that question is for you, Holly. What is the deadline for application of the Going Pro Talent Fund that was referenced in the previous slide?
Sure. The next round of individual company applications opens May 1st, and the deadline is going to be June 11th for a July start date. And then you get 12 months to do the training that's approved for that application. Now, coming up sometime in March, we don't have a date yet. They're going to open up industry-led collaborative applications. And those are the ones where you need at least 2 companies and you apply together. So say we have a couple companies in Houghton County who want to do GD&T training. We can have you apply together And that'll be sometime opening up in March. And that one will go, they set aside some money and those applications open and they stay open until that money is gone, until it's all spent. So a couple opportunities coming up. If you're interested, you contact me or your local Michigan Works person, and we'll get you in the queue, in the loop there. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Holly. And for you as attendees, I have changed your settings so that if you have a question you would like to raise, you can unmute at this time and ask the question yourself. Or if you would not, if you prefer not to go off mute, please feel free to enter your question into the chat. Okay, thank you, Nikki. Holly, I have a question for you as well. If a company has an Industry 4.0 grant that they just received, how might they partner with Michigan Works to consider training opportunities for the technology that they're acquiring?
Yeah, we'd love to come and visit with you or get on a video call and learn more about your project. Our incumbent worker training application is pretty simple. There are some additional steps in the process that we can go through with you. And we have an infographic that kind of walks you through the process. It really just, as always, if you're interested in talking about how we can help you with training, reach out to me or your local Michigan Works Business Services specialist, and we'll come over, or we'll get on a call and we'll get to know what those needs are and make a plan to give you some assistance with that.
Great, Holly, thank you. And there was a question about the slide deck from today. So I will be sending everybody who registered through email a copy of this presentation. I will also be sending out the recording of this presentation, so that if you would like to watch it again or to go back to any sections that you missed or to have a colleague watch it, you can share it with them. So that will be on its way to you probably by the end of the week though, because my marketing team will edit this video down a little bit. So are there any other questions that the audience has for our presenters? All right, well, hearing none, I want to give an opportunity to our presenters. If there's anything else that you thought of during this presentation or that you would like to add to the conversation, please feel free to do so now.
Elizabeth, I have one more comment, and that is with the Regional Talent Innovation Grant, we can layer in other services from Michigan Works for any trainees that would be in need of additional assistance.
Great, thank you very much. Anything else from one of our presenters?
Elizabeth, I just want to reiterate for the manufacturers here, for the Industry 4.0 implementation grant, any support you all require in terms of how to complete the application, if you just have any ideas that you want to bounce off of us, Elizabeth and I are available to talk you through that application form and provide services there.
Thank you, Vikesh. All right, the next slide. You'll see that we added all of the email addresses for those who were supporting this effort today. So you will have all of our contact information. And with that, I want to thank all of you for joining us today to come out and learn about all of these amazing funding opportunities that are available to you as a UP manufacturer or a UP food processor. We will be, as presenters, we will be sticking around for a little bit longer, so that if you would like to ask questions in a smaller group, you're very welcome to do so. Like I said, I will be sharing this presentation with you, as well as a copy of the recording to the email you used when you registered. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that there on the screen is our LinkedIn page and our Facebook group. Please like us and follow what we do so that you can stay connected to future events like this. MGA is a statewide organization supporting a small to mid-sized manufacturer. We have lots of training opportunities coming up. With that, I thank you for joining us as attendees, and to my partners and fellow panelists today. Thank you so very much for joining me, and I so appreciate your partnership. Take care, everybody.